That, why don't we start the meeting? I'd like to call the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming to the Public Safety Commission meeting. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So let's, Jennifer can put a flag up.
Ah, very nice.
Very nice. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States of America, to the
and to the
republic
republic
from
for
which
which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one nation,
nation,
under
God,
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 indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty,
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Great. Can we get a roll call, please?
Just a moment. Chair Hunter Chang,
Here.
Vice Chair Jeff Bazell,
present.
Commissioner Eugene Ramirez, he is excused. Commissioner Albo,
Here,
Commissioner Victoria Firestone. Oh, hold on, she is being admitted now. Hi, Victoria, we're doing roll call. Oh, we'll just skip. Alternate Zilla Tobiana.
her mic is, there you go.
Okay. Okay, we're done with roll call?
Yes, everybody's here except for Eugene.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, so the agenda's been posted 72 hours prior to this meeting. At this time, are there any public comments regarding any item that's not on the agenda that we will be talking about later? So is anyone here from the public that would like to comment at this time?
Okay, I don't see any raised hands, and I don't have
Okay.
anything in the chat or in the email.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, excuse me. I have a question. If people have been emailing their comments, do those count?
Yes, but we haven't received any emailed comments at this time.
Okay. Because they've been sending it to us.
Oh.
I received a couple. One is in text and then the other one's an email, but I was like, I don't know what to do with them.
Yeah,
That's a good question. Do you want to forward them to me and then I can check on them and see about reading them into the
Yeah.
record? Hold
Yeah.
on just a moment.
I
I got
forwarded
someone.
one of, yeah, I forwarded one of them to you and I haven't done it for the other one because it was sent during last week.
Okay, go please. Sorry, we have someone at the door at the same time.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, just forward it to me, or if you want to forward it to that fire@cityofsanmarino.org account.
Sure, we'll do that. Thank you.
okay. Seeing no public comments, I'd like to move on to commissioner reports. Any commissioners attend meetings or conferences since our last meeting? Okay, moving on to department reports, the police department, chief and control, please.
Thank you very much, Chair Chang and commissioners. You have my report in front of you. There's a couple things that I would like to highlight. Number one, we have opened the station to the public as the rest of City Hall.
Would it be
Sir?
possible for Jennifer to share the report if it's supposed to be in front of us? It's because it's really hard to see. Well, it's hard to imagine
If
it.
you don't have it, I have it open. I can share it if that makes sense.
Well,
The only thing is that I'm
then
not sure if I'll be able to take notes while sharing my screen.
I can share it.
Vanessa's gone this week, but I will then just read a few more things. But
Well,
I wanted to mention that today that, June 1st, we opened up the rest of the station and the rest of the City Hall. We have signs out front of the station that indicate one person's allowed in the lobby at a time, and everyone else will have to line up. There's a phone number for a person outside to give us a call. Our dispatch office is being completely renovated right now. They started taking things out today, and they will be completing the job by about mid next week with new desks, new equipment. Should be very exciting. We continue to have, this is for April because we're not able to get May stats until June 2nd or 3rd. And by that time, we had to have the report sent out and published. The stats for this year, for April so far, is we've had a decrease in by 25% of Part 1 crimes, so we're doing very well. And even though we had 2 residential burglaries, we're still about 80% below what we were last year. And I think that is entirely directed to our use of the flock safety cameras that we have, the license plate readers. In fact, today, just an hour or so ago, we found a stolen vehicle. The driver was on probation for burglary, and he had property on him that was stolen. And we're trying to link him to a crime, seeing if he was in the process of committing crimes in the city. But this is definitely a deterrent and has been extremely helpful for us. As of April 30th, our detective bureau has filed 13 cases for prosecution. We've done 1 search warrant for an ongoing investigation. We have 2 significant investigations. One involves a sexual assault on a child that's several years old and came to light last year. And then the other 2 or 3 are related to fraud and identity theft cases that are keeping our detectives very busy. We did an update on our personnel. As of this week, we have 29 of the 30 sworn positions we're able to fill. In July, we're going to lose 1 person to a retirement, and we have 2 people that are going through the background process. One of them is a lateral, one of the candidates is a lateral transfer from a different department. So that makes it easier because we can put them right out into their training program and in the field instead of the delay of 6 months by going to the training academy. 2 of our recruit officers will be starting tomorrow with the LA County Sheriff's Department. And we're very excited. They completed a pre-academy with the Los Angeles School Police. And it was invaluable. We're looking forward to using it again. And we're going to wait and see exactly how well they do based upon the results of their next 6 months at the Sheriff's Academy. It's kind of like a prep school for the police academy. And they did that for a little over a month. I've tried to do a survey of educational experience of our officers and our employees. We have officers with some education, no education, with some with master's degrees and bachelors. We have others that are currently going to school working on both their bachelors and their masters. One of our employees, our detective, is working on her master's at USC in public policy. If you did not know, Vanessa has a law degree, and my assistant. And so she leads the pack in education for us. We were able to use the flock safety cameras in April for 3 separate arrest incidents. Traffic, our motors started this past week, and they have been doing a great job. Today, one of the officers worked where they work Monday through Thursday, and then the other works Tuesday through Friday, primarily daytime. And the officer today wrote 12 tickets. 11 of those tickets were on San Marino. 1 was over in the Mission area because of people failing to stop at Euclid and Mission primarily. I did get a couple of complaints from the community about why are we citing residents. We base our enforcement on the primary collision factors of traffic accidents and also the top 5 violations that we are seeing. The number one is speeding. And so that's where we put an emphasis. And if a resident's doing that, then we're going to be fair and equitable to everybody and give those people a citation if necessary. My patrol guys, patrol officers today made 17 traffic stops and wrote 12 tickets also. So we're doing quite a bit towards traffic safety. We deployed our radar trailer. That's the one you see with the big sign on it, says a speed limit, has a feedback of the speed itself. And that was, we've deployed that 3 separate intersections during the month of March. And then from April 1st to the 4th, there was a Sierra Madre and Huntley Circle because of speed. Huntington and Chelsea because of speed. Also on Granada because of speed, north and south. And then the 2700 block of Huntington Drive on April 14th. We've also placed it recently on Gainsborough because of a complaint for a community member. And we're looking at other different ways of reducing speed on those streets. As you can see down below is our crime stats. It's a little bit difficult to read, but the only areas where we've had increases, as you can see, we still have an increase in larcenies, but now it's only 3.5% where it's been as bad as 10, 15% in the past. So our officers are doing a lot of good work. They are talking to a lot of community members and gardeners about keeping their equipment safe. And we did have 2 robberies versus 1 this year to date, and those are being investigated. Our citations are still up, and except for parking, but we're starting parking enforcement on June 15th. We've been putting warnings on cars that are out there telling them that, hey, we're going to be out here June 15th starting to cite people for being on the street. We've also put information out on social media. That is my report. If the commission has any questions, I'm available.
Thank you, Chief and Control. Any questions on the police department report?
May I just offer a kudo to the chief, the social media approach that you've taken to share the introduction of the motor traffic patrol, I think was well received by those who saw it. And I hope that you'll be able to continue to do that sort of thing.
Thank you. And we plan, and then when I talk about our motor officer program, our traffic safety program, I'll go into a few more things.
Yes, I just wanted to tag on to the motor officers. I've seen them for the past couple of days. I've been riding my bike, so they're around, they're visible, so appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Any other comments on the police department report?
I got a very nice letter on my car when I left it out on June 1st, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other comments on the police department report, can I get a motion to receive and file the report? Al, thank you. Second? Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to the fire department report, Chief Rueda.
So you have the report dated, the update dated June 7th for the month of May. There is a couple things in the report that I'd like to point out to you if you may have glossed over them, but the first being 73% of our residents now have been received at least 1 dose of the vaccine, which is really great for our city. And even better, 90% of our residents that are 65 and over have received at least one dose. So that is really good news. And we still are receiving about 30 to 40 calls per week in our resident support hotline, many for vaccine information, and many for city information, and many calls for rules on mask wearing and what businesses should or shouldn't be utilizing in terms of protective measures. The second area I wanted to just touch on is staffing. So we completed our background and psychological examination for 2 candidates and extended conditional job offers for those. They'll complete a medical, and barring any unforeseen obstacles, we'll fill our last 2 vacant positions with employees that, at least on paper, look very promising, and we're looking forward to their coming on board and filling those vacancies. The bulk of our training right now is being directed at probationary firefighters across all 3 shifts, because they are working overtime to cover the vacancies, and they're getting experience and training on all the shifts they work. The last area that I wanted to touch on was on the brush inspections. So we worked with Mitch in the Tribune to get an article out that talks about what's occurring in our region, which is a drought, and what is occurring even in our local area, which is the annual grasses have dried up long ago, and we're starting to see hot weather. Although we won't likely see winds till the fall. We start our brush inspections in June. They start with a letter to all residents with a checklist so that residents can do their own clearance. This is the 3rd year of this program. And for the most part, we find all of our residents comply before we ever get there. There sometimes is questions about what compliance means, and that's why we go out and visit every home and make sure that the rules are well understood, and that we clear any hazardous vegetation that may prevent us from extinguishing a fire before it gets into a home. You also have the monthly report that the fire department produces. And that concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Chief Rueda. Any questions on the fire department report?
I have a question. I'm not sure how to.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
yes.
This is Susie Moser. I live on Winston Avenue, and I'm just wondering who's responsible for clearing the brush behind us, between us, the flood control channel, and the high school, because it's gotten quite thick back there, and I'm sure it will get very dry.
So that is likely the responsibility of county, Los Angeles County. But if you can email the email address that's for the fire department with your address, we'll conduct an inspection of that area. That is outside of our high fire hazard severity zone, but that doesn't mean we can't go and conduct a regular inspection and then contact the county for cleaning. We have cited the county, and we have cited Edison in the past. They're not always how do I say this politely? They're not always the quickest to comply, but we have worked with them to clear their areas. And I know Public Works has done the same thing.
And you think that flood control channel is the county?
Yes.
Interesting, because a few years ago, when they cleared it, they said it was the responsibility of the school district because the high school actually owns the sides of the flood control channel. But I will send you an email. Is that what you want?
Yeah,
You want
just your address, Ms. Moser, and we'll follow up.
Okay, so I send you an email. How?
Jen, the fire department email, the general.
You can send it to fire@cityofsanmarino.org.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions, comments for Chief Rueda on the fire department report? Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion to receive and file the fire department report? Thank you, Victoria. Second? Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to the Public Works Department report. I noticed there's some people on here that are probably here for public comments, but weren't here when it was on the agenda. So we'll address them after Director Throne's Public Works report. So Director Throne, can you commence?
Yes, thank you, Chair Chang. You have my report in front of you, and I'll just highlight just a couple of items. We're still in the process of soliciting comments from the public on our draft citywide traffic circulation study and neighborhood traffic calming program. And so I will be bringing that back to the commission in July. Later this month, we will start doing our annual street resurfacing program. And what I have attached is the list of streets. As soon as we have a schedule, we'll publish it so that everyone in town will know when their street's going to get some fresh asphalt. We've been going forth with a neighborhood by neighborhood request program to install signs for neighbors that are interested in experimenting with our caution, watch for pedestrian signs. We're going to be changing those out to actually use the correct sign, which is diamond shaped and has a bicycle and a pedestrian on it. Now that's the official legal sign. And we've got a couple of neighborhoods that are in the queue to have those signs put in. We're also in the process of replacing the caution, watch for pedestrian or yield to pedestrians within crosswalk. We had originally placed 4 of these signs at the intersection of Mission and Euclid. And in my attempt not to damage the freshly done asphalt, we had them, they were portable and they were well liked by, we got a lot of great comments and feedback on them. However, they were so well liked by someone, they took all 4. So we're going to replace those with flexible posts that will be affixed to the pavement. We're also looking at doing that in a couple of areas of town, specifically at school crosswalks. The last thing I want to mention is that we're currently recruiting for a public works management analyst, and we received a lot of applications for that. So we'll be filling that position hopefully in about the next 45 to 60 days. And our new public works manager will be introduced at Wednesday's city council meeting. And I'm very excited to have a replacement public works manager. She's going to be a fabulous asset to the department, and you will get to meet her at your next meeting. Lastly is on my report on page 3, there's all the variety of ways you can contact Public Works. So if you or any community members see something that needs to be maintained or needs to be replaced, or you come up with an idea, hey, would be really neat to do this, please give us a shout out. And I'm going to put on my other hat very quickly. I'm currently the interim community services director. And so I've attached for the commission a summary of the summer offerings by the city's community service department. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Director Throne. Any comments for the Parks and Public Works Department report?
There are no raised hands. I did receive an email, but I believe it's regarding something not for the Public Works Department, but it is for Michael.
Okay. All right, seeing no comments, can I get a motion to receive and file?
Sorry, I do have a raised hand now.
Oh, okay.
Krista, if you would like
Go ahead.
to unmute yourself and state your name and your address.
Hi, thank you very much. My name is Krista Lakon, and I live at 2340 Conant. I just have a couple comments regarding the asphalting of the streets. I hope I'm coming through. My internet is saying it's unstable. Comments were regarding the scheduling of street slurry, which I think is what is happening. Or is it streets being asphalted? Is it new asphalt or is it street slurry?
It is a combination of resurfacing and slurry sealing. And I'm sorry, but I don't have that exact schedule in front of me as which street is which.
Okay. My comments are regarding what happened in my neighborhood, and it's nice to have the streets done. So I really appreciate that. It's mostly the scheduling. When they came, they didn't start slurring until about after lunch, and then they took the roads down at 4. So some people drove into their driveways not knowing the streets were still kind of wet. And the following morning at 7:30 is when the trash people came. So they made those permanent dents by doing their backups on the street. So my comments would just be to make the streets look nicer is to have that schedule spaced out a bit so that trash wouldn't come the next morning. And then my other question is there a sealer that comes on later so that the little pebbles don't stay loose? I don't know how. You know, after it's done for a while, there's still little pebbles that are loose on the street. Is that something that is going to go away over time, or can something be put over to seal the street? Can I ask you that?
Yes, Krista, that is a common result of slurry sealing, is that you're mixing in these very fine particles, and they do tend to shed off the street for a while. And then it stops because those particles no longer are coming off the pavement. I can, if you could send me, if it's just Coniston where we resurfaced, where we slurried last year, I'll have our city street sweeper go and do a couple of extra sweeps through there. But it will take several months for that to stop happening. And then.
So the street sweeper would help with that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I'll try to schedule a sweeper in the next week or so to help you with that.
That's okay. You know, the cars being parked on the street has been a problem for the street sweeper. So thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. But overall, the streets are very nice. So thank you.
Thank you, Krista. I appreciate that.
Okay, any other comments for Director Throne on the Parks and Public Works?
We do. Zilla, did you have a question? I see your hand raised.
Yes. So the comment earlier that was sent to me, and that was for Public Works, and it had something to do with the email that I forwarded to you with the attachment. So the comment, and then the person has left already. So he said that he sent the text in to request to speak earlier on.
Commissioner Tobiano, we'll get to public comments after we finish up the Public Works report. Okay,
okay.
Okay, so let's first get this. Any comments on the Public Works report at this time?
I have another raised hand from Jean
Okay,
Chuang.
regarding the Public Works report? Yes, go ahead.
Am I scheduled? Hi, Commissioner Hunter. Am I scheduled in the public comments? If so, I'll
Yes,
defer to that.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Any other comments for Director Throne on the Public Works report? Oh, okay. Can I get a motion to receive and file the Public Works report? Thank you, Al. Second. Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, so we went past public comments, but before we go on to new business, I'd like to address whoever has a public comment. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, state your name and address, and who would like to start?
I could go.
Okay, go ahead, Gene.
Hello, commissioners and chiefs and Director Throne. Feels like a little homecoming for me. And this is my first talk back to the public commission. I apologize for the traffic noise. I'm in vacationing in Santa Barbara, but I did submit a request for slow signs and speed traffic signs on the streets of Gainsborough and Cumberland, right behind the high school. So I've been in the neighborhood for 10 years. I'm the block captain, and I speak for, I guess, on behalf of my neighbors, including Mary Adele, who is on the form, and she's been around for 30 plus years. We have experienced a lot of speeding, especially lately. It's seasonal with regards to start of school year, which, due to COVID year has started late. And that usually speeds up when school year starts and slows down after a few months. But this year it started late. And I think also due to technology, we have had crowdsourcing, traffic directing, routing services such as Waze and Google Maps that has directed traffic off of San Gabriel southbound and Huntington eastbound, avoiding that busy intersection and that slowness of lights onto Gainsborough, on both sides of Gainsborough. I don't want to speak on behalf of the LA County side of Gainsborough. There's a lot of complaints there, and I'm sure they have to deal with county there. But on the San Marino side of Gainsborough, that's being used as a shortcut to avoid the intersection of San Gabriel and Huntington. And I've also noticed in my bike routes around my neighborhood that Cumberland and Gainsborough do not have street or traffic diversion signs, whether it's speed limit signs or slow signs, whereas streets above me, north in the northeast side of San Marino does. So the police department and the public works has been very responsive in putting in temporary speed signs as well as the traffic trailer. But unfortunately, those are temporary, and I would like to request for some permanent signs. I actually took some pictures of signs that I've seen in Chapman Woods, where I resided for 10 years prior. And they are along the side of the street, cemented, bolted into the street on the ground on the right side of the street upon entering an intersection. I think those are the most effective. But if they do not comply with our city standards or have other issues, at least I would like to have your typical diamond signs on street lamp posts in our two streets.
Thank you, Gene. I think Director Throne is aware of the issues, Gainsborough, and also the chief and Contro. So they're still working those issues. And did you have any comments, Director Throne or Chief Contro?
I did receive Mr. Chong's email, and we did order up signs. So that's a work in progress for that that area in that neighborhood, because we do recognize that. Ultimately, when we have our citywide traffic circulation study adopted by the council, it will include a neighborhood traffic calming program, and we'll be able to go through neighborhood by neighborhood, evaluating what would be the most appropriate traffic calming measure and start the process on that. The council did allocate in the upcoming budget a very generous amount of money to kick that off once we get the traffic calming program adopted by the council, probably in July.
That's fantastic. Good to hear. I also want to note that our section of San Marino is also an area that does not have sidewalks, which also, unfortunately, puts our dog walkers and joggers and strollers in peril. And also the start of the new school year in 2021 with the Carver Walk to School program. The walk down Palomar is definitely one of the routes I've taken every Friday morning. And that is also a street that has speed, lack of sidewalk at the lower section at the curve. So it's something to also we need to address. And another issue maybe I think we will save for the next commission, which is on Cumberland. We also do have at start of the school year, the private school in the church and cars backing up there. And I think that needs to be addressed as I have heard a lot of constituents in my block complain about it.
Okay, thank you, Jane. I see a hand raised. Rick Martinez, did you have a comment?
Yeah, hi, this is Rick Martinez, and Gene is absolutely right. I actually live on Gainsborough, probably about six houses up from Huntington. And during the school year and other parts of the year in the morning as people try to get around that traffic jam, they come around that lazy curve pretty quick. And I, along with my family, I've almost got clipped several times, all of a sudden you see this car come barreling down the street. So, I'm glad to hear that we're getting signs up. That's wonderful. And I'm glad we're finally getting something there. I like the sign. I like the speed sign up there. I think that's helped a little bit for sure. And I'm hoping that the signs work as well. But every now and then, if it's possible, if we can get a couple motorcycle officers there that with a speed gun, I guarantee you they'll make their quota for the year, sitting there, giving out tickets. I mean, that's a, if they don't, I'll buy them a cup of coffee. But it's just I think once the word gets out a little bit that if you come around that corner pretty quick, you're going to get a ticket. I think a lot of the moms in the neighborhood are going to slow down or go down on another street. So anything that we can do, as residents, I'd be happy to help out as well and figure something out, in terms of that corner. But even walking in the morning, sometimes you take your life in your hands because there's no sidewalks there, and like I said, they come around that lazy curve pretty quickly, and it's just I don't know the exact answer to it. I'll leave it to you guys. You guys are smarter than I am when it comes to this stuff, but anything that we can do to help make that little area safer would be very much appreciated. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Commissioner Tobiano, you have your hand up?
Yes, hi. I was reading off for the comment or question from one of the comments for the Public Works. I'm not sure if it's related to the report, but something to do with, I'm just reading it off about the Iteris expiring on June 30th. And they're wondering if the city council will be extending the contract for the Iteris expiring on June 30th. So I'm not sure, because it was mentioned that the last Public Works report, so I'm not sure if this is related to this times, and I'm just reading it off. So I'm unsure if the question is clear.
If I might, Chair Chang,
Yes.
thank you, Commissioner Tobiano, for that. We are aware of that. We thought we would be done by now 6 months ago, but we had about a year's delay due to the pandemic. They actually have wrapped up the report, and at this point, we'll be able to have it done within the contract deadlines, and if we have to, we can extend it. But really, their primary work is complete. So I really don't think we'll have a contractual issue. I'll check with our city attorney just to make sure that we're okay there. But the report's already been out. I think the commission got a copy of it. And my next step is to take it to the council.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
We had one additional comment via email that Zilla forwarded to me. It was from Cecile and Jeff Chu regarding the traffic calming study, and I have forwarded that to Director Throne.
Okay, are they here right now?
I do not see them in the
Okay.
participants.
All right, so Director Throne, you'll review that email and maybe report back.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other public comments?
Not at this
Okay.
time.
Okay. If not, we'll move on to new business, approval of minutes. Can I get a motion
I
to
move we
approve?
approve.
Okay, both of them, April and May.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bogue. Second? I'll approve it. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to the Fire Department Annual Report, Chief Rueda. You're on mute, Chief.
I will make this short, Chair, but I did want to highlight our annual report. We've been doing an annual report since 2017, and it really came about as the result of residents that I think were didn't fully understand what a fire department does and how they're measured. And I really did appreciate the interest of several residents that spent time with me and to understand how fire departments do business. And one of the results of that was Jennifer and I have produced this annual report now for a third year. It highlights really the department's achievements during this past year. And it's also really intended to provide city residents with information on the department structure, as well as our statistical measurements on how we measure our own performance. I've often found that the fire department is often a mystery behind the fire department walls as to how we do business. And I think the production of this report really helps our residents and others really understand how we do business and how we hold ourselves accountable and how we are transparent. This past year was really remarkable because it was nearly completely overshadowed by our response, our city's response to COVID-19. Just early on, the fear that we saw with this new disease and the fear I saw in both our firefighters and in the public during responses. But I think just to highlight some of the things, if we remember back to last year, I remember in February first speaking to Rotary about the COVID-19, the coronavirus, and it was initially being there were warnings that it could be a pandemic. And I remember the looks I got were that I think folks thought I was crazy. But, near a month later, the city council and the city manager were both reviewing a pandemic response plan. They declared a state of emergency in our city. We established a resident support hotline. Our mayor at that time, Mayor Shepherd Rami, headed up the crisis communication committee that really pushed out information to our residents on this new disease. The fire department ordered managed personal protective equipment for the city, along with responding to a number of very sick residents that suffered from this new disease. And lastly, I think the most rewarding program of last year was our providing vaccines to the most vulnerable residents. So, and that was the most rewarding thing I've done in nearly 40 years in the fire service. But the annual report is intended to help understand our business model and what we do, and make sure you understand what you're getting for the tax dollars that you spend. So unless you have any questions, that really concludes my report. And I thank you for all the support that the commission has also provided this past year.
Thank you, Chief Areta. Kudos to you. I received my report in the mail and it's very well done. Thank you.
Looked really nice. Well put together.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the fire department annual report? Okay, can I get a motion to receive and file the report? Thank you, Jeff. A second. Thank you, Al. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, moving on to the police department traffic safety plan. Chief Encontro.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners and members of the community. The traffic safety plan came about from the 2021 budget year with a priority initiative for traffic safety within the city of San Marino. We approached it in a multi-tiered effort, but the basis for our program is really connected with our Neighborhood Watch program, where we involve the community in assisting us with prevention of crime and reporting of crime and being good witnesses so that we can stop the crime before it occurs. With that in mind, we looked at 3 different measures of that would be effective for the reduction of crime. One, we wanted to bring back our motor officer program. It had been dormant because of personnel shortages, and that was approved. And as I said earlier, they've been out for 2 weeks now and are doing a tremendous job. And their focus is on traffic collisions, traffic enforcement, working with Public Works for the traffic engineering piece of that 3-legged stool, and it also includes education. They're going to be very much involved in education. They will be responding to complaints from community members, making contacts with those community members in neighborhoods to see ways that we can reduce traffic problems, and working with Public Works, and then seeing if there's an education process. Just off the top of my head, when we look at what can be occurring in Gainsborough, and as Gene said, it's kind of seasonal, and that's due to the people bringing their kids to school. So we would work with the school district about notifications and information about people driving down Gainsborough, making sure they're going slow enough and that they understand there's going to be a delay to try and get into that line and that queue to drop the kids off at the high school. So that would just be one part of it. And that would involve the motor officers providing education instead of citation, instead of enforcement. And that's what our plan is. We also want to work with the school district. It's kind of in a flux. We don't know who the new superintendent is. We don't know what they will emphasize. We don't know what type of communication we'll have with any new superintendent and certainly with 2 new board members. But I am betting that it will be very cooperative as it has been in the past. In the past, we've also provided education to students at the elementary schools at Carver and Valentine on safe bicycle riding. However, we've seen an increase in the number of students in the middle school and the high school riding their bicycles to work or to school, which is a great thing. And as part of that, they're not wearing their helmets. And if we give them a ticket for not wearing their helmets, mom and dad has to come with them to the court. But I think there's a way to prevent that at the beginning, where we start talking about safety measures. And we start talking with the schools and working with the schools prior to the opening of the school, which is, I think, August 11th this year. And providing information on how to reduce traffic collisions involving bicyclists. Those can be the worst kind. So that's how the motor officers are going to be working on the education piece. On the enforcement piece, again, it's going to be based upon the primary collision factors of the traffic collisions. And those factors are related to the vehicle code. Is it unsafe turning? Is it not stopping before entering an intersection, running a red light, failing to stop for a stop sign, or speeding, which is our primary offense? We plan on having each month 1 or 2 special details where we're going to emphasize distracted driving enforcement. We will work on enforcing helmet laws. We will talk about speeding and enforce speeding. We'll also bring back our pedestrian safety program, where we will have motor officers and officers themselves walking across Huntington Drive. And if people fail to stop, then they'll have a conversation with one of the officers. And depending upon that conversation, they may or may not have a traffic citation when they leave. But we'll be doing a lot of that, and we'll be publicizing it through Nixle and through our social media so people will know. The other part is technology. We have the feedback signs, the small radar signs that we can affix to city poles, and the Public Works has been a great partner with getting that up and running. And those will be put on secondary, tertiary streets, smaller streets where the radar trailer could be a traffic hazard. And then we have the radar trailer. All 3 of those items have been given to us during this past budget year. And also each one of them has data that we can use that helps us understand the number of vehicles that are going down the street, the speeds, max, minimum, and then an average speed, so we can use that data. The other things we're looking at is we have applied for a grant from the State of California Office of Traffic Safety. That grant will provide us with overtime funding. It will provide us with equipment. It will provide us with opportunities to train our employees. Our motor officers will be the primary traffic collision investigators, and we're hoping to have them receive training up to advanced traffic collision investigations and traffic, gosh, I am sorry, it has just slipped my mind right now, but traffic reconstruction, that's it. So that helps them with major traffic collision incidents. Additionally, we're looking at the use of UAS, or unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, and the use of the drones is another way to call it, but they can help with traffic collision investigations, as it'll also help the fire department and police department. So we're looking at those through completely different funding source. I mentioned the speedback signs, but the education piece is the big one, where the officers will be attending neighborhood watch meetings, town halls, when it comes to traffic issues. They will not be the only ones writing tickets. Like I said, my day watch team wrote 12 tickets and made 17 stops today in an effort to make the streets a little bit safer. So just because I have 2 motor cops, it's not going to let the patrol officers off the hook for traffic enforcement or traffic education. We think also we'll have task force operations with other departments that have motorcycles. Those will primarily be with pedestrian and distracted driving, or maybe even speed enforcement. That's my report. That's our plan. And if anyone has any more questions, it was rather general, but I'm trying to keep this as concise as possible.
Thank you, Chief Incontro. Any questions for the chief on the traffic safety plan? Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion to receive and file the traffic safety plan. Thank you, Commissioner Firestone, and Jeff seconds it. All those in favor? Okay, any opposed? All right. A motion passes. Okay, moving on to Police Department use of force policies and procedures. Chief Incontro.
Thank you very much, Chair Chang and commissioners. There was a question recently about use of force by the San Marino Police Department. Obviously, it is a significant issue across the country, and I'm pleased to provide you with information about this report. This one will be a little bit longer because there's a lot of technical issues for people to understand when we can use force and when we can't. There's been multiple changes in use of force laws in the state. There have been also changes in what constitutes use of force, when an officer can use force, also in reporting, and then the release of information when officers commit misconduct by failing to use force properly, and then also officer bystander laws, where an officer has a duty to intercede when there is force used, and when that is illegal force is used. Use of force generally means the level of force that's reasonable and appears necessary given the facts and totality of circumstances. And that has to be known to the officer, or perceived at the officer at the time of the event. There is a section 835A of the Penal Code that talks about when an officer can use force. They can effect a lawful arrest, they can exercise a detention, or to search someone. They're able to use force to overcome resistance or to prevent the escape of somebody. They are able to use force to prevent the commission of a crime. They can do so in the defense of others or in their own self-defense. They can do it to gain compliance with a lawful order. They also to prevent harm to the officer or another person only in the intervention of suicide if the person who is committing suicide is attempting to harm someone else. So that's very important, and that's a change. And we can't use force on someone just because they are using some means to kill themselves. It's difficult to when you don't understand the laws about use of force. Sometimes it's difficult to understand. Any violent act is ugly. Anytime a police officer puts their hands on someone lawfully and they're trying to effect an arrest and there's a struggle, people will fall, people will get struck, officers use different tools and techniques, whether it's a baton, whether it's what we call an ASP, which is a collapsible baton. And when you look without understanding the context of the incident, it looks very ugly and it looks like it's illegal. Like, why are they doing this? The person doesn't appear to be using force and or resisting. But you have to put it in the context of the totality of the circumstances. And some of those circumstances are the strength of the person who is resisting. Do they have some training in martial arts? What about the size difference? What about a gender difference? What about the mental state of the person? Are they under the influence of drugs? Some of those things we don't know. We may or may not have a relative say, my son, daughter, brother, sister, dad is being seen by a psychologist and psychiatrist for mental reasons. They're suffering from this mental illness. They are in this mental crisis. And if we don't know the context, we can't understand what's going on at times, and it makes it difficult. That's why force is always a last resort. We don't want to use force. The best cops are the ones that are able to talk people to jail. You know, for me, 42 years in law enforcement, I've never fired my gun. I am not an anomaly. I am not a flyer. I am pretty much what most police officers are when they go through their career. They never fire their gun. A use of force can be merely an officer holding on to someone in a firm grip, and then they resist. If they resist as the officer has them in a firm grip to hold them steady, hold them still, and there's resistance, that's going to initiate a report by a supervisor about that officer. And that goes all the way up into the use of deadly force. And when we do that, we conduct an investigation. The only time we do not, the city of San Marino, the San Marino Police Department, is in the event of an officer-involved shooting where someone is struck. Then we would call this Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and their Homicide Bureau responds and handles the investigation. There's also oversight by the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office. And as of this year, there's also the possibility, if the suspect who is shot or the person who's shot by the officers is unarmed, then an investigative team from the Attorney General's office will respond. At this time, they are not operational. They're in the process of trying to find investigators, trying to work through the organization of this new response team. And there'll be multiple response teams throughout the state. California leads the country in the most stringent use of force policies and laws for police officers. There's also new laws that may or may not be passed concerning the use of less lethal munitions, which are 40 millimeter rounds that have a sponge surface. Also, when to use OC spray, which is oil resin capsicum, or like red peppers. And pepper spray is what we call it, or other kind of chemical weapons. And those things are going through the legislature right now. POST, which is the Police Officer Standards and Training, provides us with the approved methods of force and talks about reporting procedures, and we follow those. For the police department, in the past 5 years, and we did a look to see how many uses of force that we've had in the past 5 years, we've had 28 use of force incidents that were documented that met the criteria of someone simply using a resisting a firm grip or something like that. And that's a level 4. Let's say we're putting some handcuffs on someone and they start to pull away and we have to use some kind of control hold to have them secured in the handcuffs. That's a level 4. And we had 24 of those. There's no medical treatment generally with those. A level 3 is there's some kind of complaint of pain by the person that has had force used on them. We're not using impact weapons, which is the 40 millimeter round, or the baton, use of a baton. And generally, we don't transport people to the hospital. The fire department comes out and checks them. But it may have, the injury may have some kind of redness from the handcuffing or some other an abrasion if they fell to the ground. And like I said, the paramedics usually do an evaluation of the field. We had 3 of those in 5 years. A level 2 is a transportation to the hospital for medical treatment. And that's where they're treated and released at the hospital. And then we take them to the LA County Jail or Pasadena Police Department Jail for booking. And more significant injuries, but they are injuries that do not require a hospital stay. And in 5 years, we've had one of those. And a level 1 is where there's an officer involved shooting. There is some sort of injury that the officer causes to a person that results in their being transported and remaining in the hospital, admitted into the hospital for an injury of that's great bodily injury or death. We have not had any of those in 5 years. And in fact, the time that I've been here, the only 6.5 years, we had one officer about 6 years ago fire his gun at a dog that he believed was attacking him. And that was not investigated by the sheriffs, that was investigated by us. So our uses of force have averaged about 5.5 per year for the past 5 years. We have very few uses of force. My officers are very well trained to talk to people. We have had multiple types of training on dealing with those in a mental health crisis, how to recognize and understand those that have mental illness, also with autism, and also with people who are suffering from dementia, because that can, as we know, result in some sort of aggravation at times. So we try to be as well trained as we possibly can. And we maintain a cadre of officers who are trained and certified to teach use of force, to teach different control holds and other methods that we need. And we do this multiple times a year for all our officers. I'm very proud to say that we have a very few uses of force, that our uses of force are in compliance. We recently reviewed all of the policies regarding use of force, and we ensured that they met the policy, the rules, regulations, and laws of the state of California. But they do change, they change all the time. So that is one of our primary factors that we do. It's one of those things that it's a very high risk, but low occurrence. And because it's high risk, we're still going to pay a lot of attention to make sure that we're following the law and that we're fully documenting our investigations and that we are able to provide this information to the public through the Public Safety Commission. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Thank you, Chief Encontro. Any questions for the chief on the use of force policies? Go ahead, Al. Go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you for the comprehensive review. I think our community would appreciate hearing this report. I hope some of them at least will read it as a result of possibly some report in the news, and if not, from reading the agenda attachments. But I really thank you for taking the time to do that. I think it's information shared that is information needed, and it demonstrates the quality of our police department. I think that you've done what you've done here.
Thank you, sir. And just wanted to add a couple more things. I apologize. Training is extremely important. You know, when I was a captain of the training division for LAPD, and then when I oversaw the SWAT team as a captain, Metropolitan Division, making sure that our officers are trained not only in how to fire their gun, but when not to. And we have 1 month where we have officers qualification where they're not firing their gun, where their responsibility is given a set of circumstances. They explain to us, what's the policy? Is this a event where you can use force, where you can use lethal force, deadly force? So that's equally important to us. We're also looking at other options for training, such as virtual reality. And that's very big within law enforcement, as it is in the military and other industries. And through virtual reality, we can certainly set up what we call shoot, don't shoot targets, shoot, don't shoot scenarios. And when you add in the application of requiring the officers to understand the policy, to be able to repeat the policy, and to really bring it into their understanding of the policy, you have less uses of force. And also the way we train them to interact with the community, to be service oriented. That also helps us reduce the number of uses of force and the need for force.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chief, for that report. Any other questions for the chief on this report? Okay, can I get a motion to receive and file the use of
I move we
force?
receive and file.
Thank you. Al, a second. Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Moving on to the discussion regarding the wayfinding program, Director Throne.
This will actually be led by Stephanie Britt of the Community Development Department.
Okay.
Stephanie, do you need co-hosting abilities?
Yes, please. If I could share my screen, that would help. One moment, please.
Sorry.
Okay, now it's up. So good evening. Thank you for having me. I will try to keep this very brief. So as part of the Economic Development Department with the Planning Department, we are working on a city wayfinding program. Now, the goal of this program is to direct vehicular traffic towards our shopping areas. So this will be along Mission Village, Huntington Drive, and it would also direct people towards the Huntington Library, major landmarks. We contracted Hunt Design to come up with a design for the wayfinding signage. It was inspired by the signs currently in city of Pasadena, Santa Barbara, Claremont. So you've seen these in other cities. They will not be placed on the medians. They will be placed primarily on existing poles along Huntington Drive and towards Mission Village. The specs are provided here. As you can see, they will be directional. Hunt Design identified spots for 10 signs, and they prioritize the shopping areas. Now, the next step will be to start construction, fabrication of the signs and installing them. If you have any questions about the placement of the signs, please let me know. The cost of fabrication and placement will be approximately $75,000. And that will include the cost of building them, setting up the poles, overseeing that the fabrication is done well. If you have any questions regarding this process, please let me know. At this next step, we just need public safety's approval for the placement and fabrication. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. I did have a couple of comments on this. I don't know if you can see this.
Yes.
I recommend that we have some kind of line where the direction changes. If you can see this line here, it can go all the way across, or just, something that delineates the direction has changed, so you know which one this pertains to.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, and that's
Yeah,
a
and the
very
same
easy
color would be, so it'd be like white lines. So, okay, these all go this direction, these all go this direction. I think that make it a little easier to read. And also my second comment is, I know these are things to point to things in the city, but do we want anything to point them out of the city, like how to get to Pasadena or, South Pass? That's what they might want to do, is just find a way out of the city.
Well, we can discuss it and add it to the list of locations. Our goal, though, is definitely to direct them towards the shops to support them, but we can consider it.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Any other questions for Stephanie?
I mean, it sounded like the charge of this commission was to comment on the location of the signs.
Would you like to see the map?
I'm looking at it.
Okay.
You can probably see me struggling to look at it. How were the locations chosen in the first case? I see where they're proposed, but how were these locations chosen as opposed to others?
Hunt Design identified the best locations based on intersections and then make sure that they are pointing in the right direction towards major landmarks. So we selected Mission Village, City Center, which is close to City Hall, then Oak Knoll District for one side of the city, and Titan District. So after naming these locations, we identified the best places for the signs and to point people towards those locations and improve traffic flow.
Would you comment? I don't know. Raise my hand here.
Yes.
May I ask
Oh,
a
yes.
question?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah. Would you comment, looking at this map, you've created something called the Titan section, but I don't see any signs that have anything to do with the east side of town. And what is the Titan section?
So
Do-
some
and
of
do-
the
Does it not
businesses-
include the area down at the, where the post office is and the commercial area at that corner?
So that is pointing towards the Titan District, and where Potato and Tea Shop is, I believe there's a dog grooming place. It's far away towards the high school. We chose Titan District because it's a nod towards the high school's mascot.
Yeah, no, I have no question about the choice of the terminology.
There's
but,
no sign
you know,
pointing that way.
I'm looking at this map and I see blue boxes lots of places,
Mhm.
but I don't see any blue boxes in what I would have thought is the Titan section. Am I missing something?
Well, I can review it if you could give me a moment to pull up the map. Or if someone has the map in front of them, maybe they can share their screen.
I've got it in front of me, but I don't believe I have the authority to share the screen. So.
Give me one moment. Oh, I found it. It's fine.
I think the concept is great, and I certainly commend you for that effort. But I think I share the earlier question is we've created a district that starts here and goes to there, and this, I don't know what this sign says, but it appears to be on the north side of the street, and if that's the case, it's addressing things that are going to the west. So there don't seem to be any signs that introduce the district, nor that direct anyone from the west going east to find the district. So it strikes me that might be an area that needs to be addressed.
I believe this sign, I don't know if you can see my cursor on the screen. Okay, I believe this section points towards Titan District. However, this image isn't high quality, but I can look it up and let you know.
Well, if I understand what the little blue dots mean, that's where the sign's going to hang. It's southbound on Sierra Madre or northbound on Sierra Madre, in which case it's of absolutely no use. So I would think that if our goal is to help people find things and we've created a district, then we ought to do something to help them find it. And it does not appear that we're doing that here.
That's a good point. We can review the signs and make sure that we are directing people towards Titan District as well.
I have to admit, I'm absolutely stunned that we're spending $75,000 to produce a dozen signs. I would think for $75,000 we could get a few more, and it sure looks like we need them.
Well, thank you for that feedback. I do believe the cost of fabrication and printing does take a bit, but we can also review the budget.
Yeah, but again, I would hope that if we're going to do this, that we would give a little more thought to the east side of town.
Okay. Any other questions?
This is random, but has there been any thought to asking the Huntington to chip in, given that some of these signs will undoubtedly point people to it?
So the Huntington Library was involved in the process. They mentioned that they are branding themselves as the Huntington, but they are not pitching in, unfortunately.
This process is not really building upon the signs that we have at the entry to the city announcing that you're now in San Marino. Was there some specific reason that there's no tie-in? For example, if you were entering the city from Alhambra and there's a small block of concrete on the lower right-hand side northbound that says San Marino. But if we wanted anyone to find anything, they have to wait until they get to Huntington Drive to be directed up, down, or sideways. I'm just, again, you've opened the door here, so you get lots of questions, but.
That's fine. So Hunt Design is also designing monumental signs. So there's like the entryway that says San Marino. Those are called monument signs.
Yeah.
There's an additional cost to building those, and it is a phasing process. And eventually we would like to have Welcome to San Marino signs. And then eventually there's the other category, which are the directional signs. Those are usually closer to intersections because that's when they direct people towards specific locations.
Okay, thank you. That explains it.
Yeah, and hopefully once we have the budget, we'd like to have those monumental signs as well.
Well, I wasn't concerned about them. I was really asking why are the signs at the intersections, and you answered the question.
Okay.
This might be a silly question, but was there any sort of study or review done that suggested that we needed these signs to point people to where they're going, that people were lost without them? Or that would somehow help people find things and not increase traffic in ways that people might not want traffic increased on certain streets like Los Robles or, other places?
We did put into consideration avoiding residential streets. We don't want additional traffic for residents. However, Hunt Design did use traffic studies from the past in order to make the decisions for placement. Yeah, and that's mainly based on rhetoric also from the shop owners that say that most drivers are having trouble finding some spots, especially Mission Village. Most people tend to drive just through Huntington Drive, and they fail to see how to reach Mission Village from there.
Do any of these signs actually point at Mission Village?
Yes.
Which ones?
Well, unfortunately, this image is not the best quality, but quite a few of them point towards it along Huntington Drive and I believe along Los Robles.
Al, I'm going to take a guess and say the one that's at the top of Los Robles and the one that's in Huntington just up the bottom of Los Robles would probably point that direction.
Yeah, but I would think that if you were on Los Robles, you'd find it anyway.
Yeah.
But clearly, are these signs going to in any way be impacted by any of the changes that are anticipated if and when we do the 710 modifications?
I'm
to
not
Huntington Drive or
sure
anything else?
the extent of the modifications. I believe Huntington Drive and Los Robles will still remain where they are. So the answer to your question is no.
Maybe a lot of these questions are related to the fact that we can't really read these signs, but do the ones on the east point people to things on the west and vice versa? Like, do the signs on Huntington as you enter the city in city center, for instance, point to Mission Village if someone wants to get there?
Yes, and I can definitely get a better quality image for everyone tomorrow and email it around. But yes, if you're in city center, it does point west, east, in order to direct people towards those shops.
Good.
Mhm.
Do any of the signs identify the direction to reach the schools?
Yes, especially the high school. I don't believe it points towards the middle school or elementary school since they're not close to the shopping areas.
Do any of them address the direction to get to Lacey Park?
Yes, definitely.
Hmm.
And the old mill.
Can I ask what's up? There's a sign just south of Lacey Park. It looks like it has one item on it. What's the one thing on that sign?
One moment.
I mean, I feel like if we're paying for all these signs, we might be able to use better use of all of them. If there's one that has one and one that has two things on it, maybe we can find ways to. I know they all have to point to each other, so it does get confusing. You have to follow them through and make sure that people
Yeah.
can actually get someplace, but I'm just curious what the sign with one thing on it is.
My assumption is Mission Village since I think that's Monterey Road. But again, I can verify once I have a higher quality image.
Okay, because if it's Mission, that is Monterey. If it's
Mhm.
if it's pointing to Mission, I don't see another sign on Monterey that would tell them to turn.
Oh, that's a good point. They would need to turn on.
So you'd have to turn on Los Robles over here.
Yeah. Okay.
Or they're going to have to turn on, yeah.
That's a good point.
And if you've got a sign, I don't know where it is. If that sign on Monterey is the one that's supposed to get you to the old mill,
They have to turn
it,
too.
it appeared you've got to turn on the old mill, or you've got to access it from El Molino or whatever the name of the road is. And the sign that you show here is on the is eastbound, but there doesn't seem to be any sign westbound.
Mm.
That
There's-
actually might, given the length of the words, that might say Lacey Park. But then
But it
we'll,
doesn't, yeah,
then
but
we'll need a
there's,
turn I just blanked on
either
it.
St. Albans or Virginia.
Virginia, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would it
can I-
work if I have a high quality photo emailed to you and you write down your feedback and then we can reassess?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna suggest. Either a photo or just maybe one sign on a page or two signs on a page. We can clearly see it. Maybe number them, say number 2 is going over here.
Okay.
And
You're,
just so that we're clear, part of Hunt Design's task here was to make sure that every sign points you in a way that someone's not going to get lost, right? I mean,
Yeah.
someone sat down and said, okay, if we point them here, they're going to follow this and then they're going to hit it, or they're going to find another sign that tells them to turn again, right? I mean, that's part of their charge.
Mhm. Exactly. That's good feedback. And they had initially 15 signs and we put it down to 10 signs to cut down costs. So that might be the reason why.
that's
Oh, okay, 'cause there's
$7,500 per sign. What's going on?
That's part of the engineering cost too.
Engineering to make a sign?
There's a lot of standards, I guess.
Wait, so I have two questions based on Al's comment. One was, at one point, I thought during the presentation, you said that the signs were going to go on existing poles, and then at another point, I think you said there were going to be poles for the signs. Is the
So
75,000 for signs on poles that we have already, or signs with poles that we're buying?
So the cost that I provided is under the assumption that we get poles for all of them, but we're going to try to use existing poles to cut down on those costs.
Okay, so the 75,000 was for 10 or 12, 15 signs on 15 poles?
No, that's for 10 signs on 10 poles.
Okay, so that leads me to
There
my
are
second question. This map has 15 signs on it.
Right.
I can ask Hunt Design to reassess the number of signs that we're providing. This is an older graphic. We didn't ask them to create a new one after we reduced the number of signs.
Okay, so if we're going to be asked to comment on the location and the cost of the signs, we probably need the most recent information.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, can I suggest that we bring this back at our next meeting? Is there a deadline, Director Throne, where we have to give you the locations?
I think Ms. McGee will have the the schedule, and we, I believe, Chief and Contra will want to ask the commission what you want to do about your July 5th meeting, which occurs on a day that the city is closed. So depending on what day you choose in the future, that will depend on what day information can get back to you as a commission.
How about if we meet July 6th, which is the Tuesday right after July 5th? Is that enough time? Can everyone make that meeting, first of all? I see Chief and Control. So is July 5th enough time?
July 6th would be just a day after your regular meeting, so the information would get out to you the week before, as we usually do.
If we're asking Hunt Design to do an update to this, can we have them, or somebody go out and see which of these signs can use existing poles, so we have a better sense of how many poles we have to buy?
Okay.
Is the city council expecting us to issue an opinion on this before they take some action?
Yes, so in order to purchase and start fabrication, we're waiting on the okay from this team.
So we are delaying that into July at this point.
Yes.
Okay, so are we clear on what we would like to see at the July meeting then?
So a better graphic
graphics.
and a better study regarding polls and costs.
And locations, the final 10 locations.
Mhm.
Yeah, and if we could actually have a copy of each of the 10 signs or the words that are going to go on it and which way the arrows are pointing, that would make it very easy to say it's a commendable project and we approve it.
That makes sense.
Stephanie, that, and if it's possible to get a breakdown, just some color on why the signs are that cost. Maybe they're weatherproof, maybe they're, going to last 10 years. Just some information on that would be so nice. And then also, perhaps if we're going to take a look back in 3 years or whatever that time frame may be for analytics, how are we to know if they were effective, if they drove traffic down to Huntington, for instance? If these stores do pick up more business, I would, think that it would be a nice thing if we do get more stores, for instance, if we might be able to subsidize the cost of further upkeep, because right now it's a little bit early in the program, right? But if there's any way to just have a starting point and be able to chart the success of it, and maybe do it differently next time, that'd be nice.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments? The wayfinding program?
I would hope Stephanie will go away with the idea that we think that we're pleased that they're looking into it. And we would encourage anything to help our community and the commercial district. So
thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you all.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie.
All right, take care.
So we'll see you again on July 6th then.
See you then.
Okay, great. Okay, moving on to our final item, review of safety striping at Sierra Madre and Huntington. Is that you, Director Throne?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Chair Chang. Very briefly and succinctly, if you have ever tried to make the right turn there at the bus shelter as you go southbound on Sierra Madre Boulevard to westbound Huntington Drive, you'll see that it's a very oddly striped out area because there's a bus shelter there. Metro buses do stop there on a regular basis. If you're going northbound on San Marino Avenue and you want to make the left turn, there's a lot of times folks that are making the right turn going southbound really kind of want to crash into you. And that's primarily due that it's not very clear with the striping of what is going on there for drivers. And so you have the bus conflict, you have pedestrians, and then you have opposing movements So we brought this up to our traffic engineer. We were getting some really good feedback from some local residents as about, they were just concerned that there was going to be a very unfortunate collision there involving buses, people, and vehicles. So the traffic engineer came up with a scheme. That scheme is shown on, let's see here. It's either page 85 or page 9-11 or page 10 of the report. So you have your choice there as to where to find this figure 17. And what they're really proposing to do is to make it high visibility striping so that it's much more apparent to drivers, especially those making that right turn. And then also either installing raised delineators, which are the white tubes that are shown on figure 15, channelizer posts, or using non-reflective raised pavement markers. These would be the dots that you see, and spacing those so that if you were to try to drive over them, all of a sudden you would realize that, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't be in that zone. So I reviewed this with our chief of police. We support this restriping. I would be very interested in the commission's input as to whether we should use non-reflective raised pavement markers, or if we should try to do the channelizer posts. We have no channelizer posts in San Marino. So this would be a first-time experiment on that. They are the type that if you run into with your car, they bend over and then they flip back, but they will do damage to the front end of any car that's got plastic on it. That concludes my report, and I'm looking forward to the commission to see what your thoughts are on this.
Director Throne, I have a really stupid question. Maybe it's in this report, maybe it's not. But if we're worried about people turning right into the bus lane, I'm assuming we're not putting these posts or bumpy things in the bus lane, because then the bus would be very confused. So what's going to keep people from just turning inside the posts or the bumpy things, to use the technical term? If I'm in that right lane, wouldn't I just try to stay next to the curb and end up trapped in the bus only section?
You would, but we're going to put down an extra wide stripe. And so you're going to get the visual clue. Currently, the way that it's striped, there's a line that, if you look at figure 13, there's a line parallel to the curb. And that makes it look like if you're sitting there wanting to make a right turn, oh, that's the lane.
Okay.
So we're going to stripe across it. And then the markers or the channelizers will be placed in a fashion that the bus will be able to squeak through it. But visually for a driver, they won't feel that they have enough room to make that. Plus there's a white line that's saying to them with their high school driver's training, oh, white line is edge, I shouldn't cross it.
Okay.
So that's the rationale behind it. People are generally well programmed when it comes to traffic striping. They know that yellow, is always on the left and white is always on the right. And white often is used to keep drivers in their same lane. If they're going in the same direction. You see that in construction zones, and a lot of HOV striping nowadays is double white lines. It means the same thing. So the traffic engineer determined that this was the way to visually give that clue to drivers that no, you should really be staying in, you should be following the arc of that line.
And this isn't going to somehow, sorry, Al, this isn't going to somehow interrupt bus service, right? The bus is going to know that it's not prevented from now going over there, right?
Yeah, the buses won't be confused because painted in the direction that the bus is driving, it'll say bus only.
Okay.
So
I see that, but
bus drivers are generally very good about knowing where they stop, and they pretty much don't. They like their own lanes. And so we're not going to stripe out a lane for them, which is what's currently there, because that confuses the regular driver. But the buses will know that they can still pull there because it says bus only.
Okay. Sorry, Al, I just had one more comment and then I mean, question and then a comment. The two pictures that are in here, figure 17 and figure 18 appear, unless maybe it's just because it's zoomed in, appear to have a different length of line with the poles or bumps. How far down the street is that going to go?
You are correct. They do appear, they appear to be different lengths. And if this general concept is approved, then we'll have the engineer make a single length. What the engineer is worried about is as you pull out of the parking lot, you want to make sure that you also give those folks enough time to and enough merge over. It's a very unfortunate series of intersections. It would be great to do something different, but we're kind of trapped by the pavement and the different turning movements. So this will get us to the point where we will have a good turning movement, which is really the heavier movement. And a lot of drivers know if they're coming out of the parking lot, they'll need to check over their left because they don't have a clear lane to jump into right away. They'll have to merge in.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure it didn't go too far because I don't really care about the chevron, but there's an entrance to the chevron there. We don't want to prevent people from thinking they can't turn into the business.
Yes, it won't go far enough that it will block them because the white line would say don't cross.
Right, but the one that's in the bottom picture probably is too far for someone to make a nice safe turn into chevron because it goes all the way to like the middle of their
it looks like they got very excited about the dots.
Yeah. So my last thing, and then I'll let Al ask his questions, is I would recommend if we do this, and it sounds like a fine plan, that we put just the raised bumps and not the poles. I think that just looks kind of too industrial. And in places where I've seen that done, like on the 10 freeway, for instance, most of them are gone now because so many people have hit them. They just knocked them off and they just turned them into raised bumps anyway. So why don't we just skip the middle step and go right to the raised bumps? Sorry, Al, all to you.
Director, if you have a moment to look at the illustration 17, if I'm in the right-hand turn lane heading south and I want to make a right-hand turn, would it make more sense for you to move the line of bumps a couple feet further east? Because if you'll notice the way this is designed, you start, most times when you make a right-hand turn, you follow the curb. And it appears here that if I were there, I would start to turn into the bus lane. And if you don't want me to do that, if you move the white line a little bit further so that I don't get the idea that I can, I mean, it may be it may just be an illusion in this picture. And I'm sure that what you're intending is that you want me when I'm sitting in the right-hand lane to be looking ahead and seeing where I'm supposed to turn. So
that's a very good point. If you look at figure 18, which is the last, which is on the next page.
Yeah, what you want to do is turn like that orange line. So I would think you'd want to pull all these dots all the way around so it kind of merged with the orange line if you can, or to the extent you can.
And that's the ideal turning path that a passenger vehicle would take. The conflict you have is you have a crosswalk there.
And so you almost have to run it out to the crosswalk.
Right. I cannot stripe through a crosswalk. So, but I can have them look at it to see if they can pull it as close as possible.
Does it have to run all the way to the curb? Can it run to a spot 2 or 3 feet outside the crosswalk? In other words, the turning radius.
I think that's the way it is now, though, Al.
Is it? Okay, I can't really tell. But in any event, and I had the same concern you did about the length of the line in 18, because not only they have to get into the gas station, they have to be able to get over and turn right onto Monterey. So looks like a great improvement.
Yes, I agree. It's a great improvement. I guess, well, first of all, are there any other comments? I like the recommendations you have here, 1, 2, and 3 with the bot stots instead of the channelizers.
Mhm.
So if I can get a motion, I guess you want a motion to approve the recommendations listed, the 3 recommendations.
Yes, please.
Number one is to-
With the modifications that you've suggested here, yes.
Okay, so the number 1, just summarizing, repaint the stripe island. Number 2, install bus only painting. And then 3, to install the bot stots.
Mhm.
And then the comments here tonight, what, can you repeat? Summarize the comments for our motion. Did you, you're gonna look into possibly extending the corner
Mhm.
closer to San Marino Avenue
Yes,
without touching the crosswalk?
yes.
Okay,
And then just ensure that the tail end of it doesn't
Doesn't-
overly conflict with the driveway
okay,
into the chevron.
okay. Does everyone concur with that?
Yeah.
Can I get a motion?
So move.
Thank you, Al. Second, Jeff, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We'll see some new painting there, hopefully. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of the agenda. The other thing is to set the date. We've talked about having it on the 6th, which is a Tuesday after the holiday. Is everyone okay with that date? Any objections? Okay, so can we move the date to the 6th, Jennifer? Okay, any other comments before we adjourn?
And then excuse me, Chair Chang, what you will have to do is adjourn to this, to the 6th, which will be a special meeting, because your
Okay.
regular meeting would be on the 5th.
Okay, so it'll be called a special meeting.
Yes.
Okay. I think Jennifer has that right. I think you're on mute. Jennifer, is that yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, no parting comments? All right, great. Thank you all for staying long tonight. And we'll see you on the 6th. Meeting's adjourned. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
Good meeting, guys.
Good meeting.